Egyptian Heaven and Hell by E.A. Wallis Budge. Now, we start with the Book of Gates, Chapter 1. The Alabaster Sarcophagus of Seti I. The text of the Book of Gates, printed in the following pages, is taken from the Alabaster Sarcophagus of King Seti I, BCE 1370, which is preserved in the Museum of Sir John Soane at 13 Lincoln's Inns Field. Sloan? Is it Soane or Sloan? Because there's definitely the Sloan collection in the British Museum. Well, somewhere in Britain, anyways. It says Soane. S-O-A-N-E. The sarcophagus is undoubtedly one of the chief authorities for the text of that remarkable book, but before any attempt is made to describe the arrangement of the scenes and the inscriptions which accompany them, it will be well to recall the principal facts connected with its discovery by Giovanni Battista Belzoni, who has fortunately placed them on record in his narrative of the operations and recent discoveries within the pyramids, temples, tombs, and excavations in Egypt and Nubia, London, 1820, page 233. In October 1815, Belzoni began to excavate the Biban al-Muluk in the Valley of the Tombs of the Kings on the western bank of the Nile at Thebes, and in the bed of a watercourse he found a spot where the ground bore traces of having been moved. On the 19th of the month, his workmen made a way through the sand and fragments of stone which had been piled up there, and had entered in the first corridor of a passage of a magnificent tomb, when he soon discovered to have been made for one of the great kings of Egypt. A second corridor led him to a secret chamber, which, being 30 feet deep, formed a serious obstacle in the way of any unauthorized intruder, and served to catch any rainwater which might make its way down the corridors from the entrance. Beyond this chamber are 2 halls, and from the first of these Belzoni passed through the other corridors and rooms until he entered the vaulted chamber in which stood the sarcophagus. Just making sure this is recording. The sarcophagus chamber is seated at a distance of 320 feet from the entrance to the first corridor, and is 180 feet below the level of the ground. Belzoni succeeded in bringing the sarcophagus from its chamber into the light of day without injury, and in due course it arrived in England. The negotiations in which he opened the trustees of the British Museum, to whom its purchase was first proposed, fell through, and he subsequently sold it to Sir John Soane. It is said for the sum of £2,000. Okay, £200 even back then. He could have done better. An examination of the sarcophagus shown that both it and its cover were hollowed out of monolithic blocks of alabaster, and it's probable, as Mr. Sharpie says, that those were quarried in the mountains near Alabastronpolis, the district in which is known to the Egyptians by the name Hut-Nub, and is situated near the ruins known in modern times by the name of Tel el-Amarna. Now, it helps if, some of these texts, they show you the modern languages that have the place names, so you know how to properly pronounce them. As Belzoni's narrative is of interest, his account of his discovery of Seti's tomb is given in the appendix of this chapter, which maybe I'll share tomorrow. In the Het-Nub quarries, large numbers of inscriptions written chiefly in the hieratic character have been found, and from this interesting selection, from those published by Messrs. Blackden and Fraser, we learn that several kings of the ancient and middle empires carried on works in them, no doubt for the purpose of obtaining alabaster for funeral purposes. The sarcophagus is 9 feet 4 inches long, 3 feet 8 inches wide in the widest part, and 2 feet 8 inches high at the shoulders, and 2 feet 3 inches at the feet. The cover is 1 foot 3 inches high. The thickness of the alabaster varies from 2.5 to 4 inches. The skill of the mason who succeeded in hollowing the blocks without breaking or even cracking them is marvelous. And the remains of holes nearly 1 inch in diameter suggest that the drill was as useful to him as the chisel and mallet in hollowing out the blocks. When the sarcophagus and its cover were finely shaped and polished, they were handed over to an artisan who was skilled in cutting hieroglyphs and figures of the gods in stone, and both the insides and outsides were covered by him with inscriptions and vignettes and mythological scenes which illustrated them. Alabaster sarcophagus of Meneptah I, King of Egypt, London, 1864, page 14 is a source that's mentioned as Mr. Sharpe says. So it's Mr. Sharpe's book. Both inscriptions and the scenes were filled in with a kind of plant made from some preparations of copper, and the vivid bluish-green color of this paint must have formed a striking contrast to the brilliant whiteness of the alabaster when fresh from the quarry. At the present time, large number of characters and figures are denuded of their color, and those in which it still remains are much discolored by London fog and soot. The first to attempt to describe the contents of the text and scenes on the sarcophagus of Seti I was the late Samuel Sharp. Sharp or Sharpe? Sharp, probably. Who, with the late Joseph Bonomi, published the alabaster sarcophagus of Meneptah I, King of Egypt, London, 1864. Okay, the former was responsible for the letterpress, and the latter for the plates of scenes and text. For some reason which it is not easy to understand, Mr. Sharp decided that the hieroglyphic characters which formed the pronomen of the king for whom the sarcophagus was made were to be read Oimeneptah, a result which he attained by assigning the phonetic value of O to the hieroglyphic sign of Osiris. The phenomenon is sometimes written as Pati Men. And I'm trying to... Okay, there's 3 variations there so we can see them. P, T, E, M, and N. M and N. Okay. So it's the same except for the little glyph guy. Oh, he made an error. There's supposed to be 3 variations, and he had Anubis and Osiris, and anyways, it's to be read as either Sete Mer En Ptah or Sete Men En Ptah. Well, it starts Ptah. So where's the rest of it? Mr. Sharpe did not apparently realize that both the signs of Anubis and Osiris were to be read Set. Ta, Seti, Men. And he gave the first the phonetic value of A, and the second the value of O. He next identified Amenephthah, or Oimeneptah, with the Amenophoth of Manetho, and the Chomaptha of Eratosthenes, saying, hence arises support to our reading of his name. oimeneptha. Passing over Mr. Sharpey's further remarks, which assert that the sarcophagus was made in the year BCE 1175, we must consider briefly arrangement of the text and scenes upon the insides and outsides of the sarcophagus and its covers. On the upper outside edge of the sarcophagus runs a single line of hieroglyphs, to which contains speeches supposed to be made to the deceased by the 4 children of Horus. Hre. Hre. The line is in 2 sections, each of which begins at the right-hand side of the head and ends in the left-hand side of the foot. Remember all my accounts where I say that, there's on the right-hand side and is where this experience tends to dominate is, which ends up being like a northwest corner, and ends at the left-hand side of the foot. That has other implications, Below this line of hieroglyphs are 5 larger scenes, each of which is divided into 3 registers and are enclosed between 2 dotted bands, which are intended to represent the borders of the valley of the otherworld, which can said to be Sitratra or the Klipat in the Kabbalah. Or the inner side of the sarcophagus are also 5 scenes, but there is no line of hieroglyphs running along the upper edge. On the bottom of the sarcophagus is the finely cut figure of the demoness Nut, and round about her are texts selected from the Theban recension of the Book of the Dead. On the inside of the cover is a figure of the demoness Nut with arms outstretched. On the outside of the cover, in addition to the texts which recorded the names and titles of the deceased, are inscribed 2 large scenes, each of which are divided into 3 registers, like those inside and outside the sarcophagus. The line of the text of the upper outside of the register reads, and before I share this, let me remind you that, we are on into the Book of the Gates. Within Book 2, the Egyptian Heaven and Hell, the short form of the Book of Tuat, and the Book of the Gates. So even this is part 2 of that. I'm going to... Okay. The text goes... the text is the speech of Mesthe. I am... Okay, I want to see. Hold on. Bear with me. Yemen Sathe. Yemenisthe is probably the right name. I am Yemenisthe. I am thy son, O Yestir, Osiris, King, Lord of the 2 lands, Menmaat Ra, whose word is Ma, whose word is Maat, son of the sun, Sete Mern Ptah, whose word is Maat, and I have come so that I may be among those who protect thee. I make to flourish thy house, which shall be doubly established by the command of Ptah, and by the command of Ra himself. Speech of Yinpu. I am Yinpu, Anubis, who dwelleth in the funeral chest. He saith, Mother Isis descendeth. Yist. Bandages for me, Yesir, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, son of the sun, Setem Ptah, whose word is Mat, from his speech that worketh against me. So, always remember to insert your own name in things, because when you insert your own name, it's about you. So obviously, okay, Yesir, Hre, Sathe. Okay. Speech of Dwa Mataf. I am Dwa Mataf. I am thy son Hre. I love thee, and I have come to avenge thee. Yasir upon him who would work his wickedness upon thee, and I will set him under feet forever. Yasir, king, lord of the two lands, Matra, son of the sun, from his body loving him, lord of crowns. Sathem Ptah, whose word is Mat before the great God. Okay, let's say, okay, we got Hare, we have Dwamataf, Duff, okay. To be said, Ra liveth, the tortoise dieth. I happen to like tortoises, thank you. Strong are the numbers of Yasir, King Manmat, Ra, whose word is Mat, Hasan guardeth them, Ra liveth, the tortoise dieth. In a sound state is he who is in the sarcophagus. In a sound state is he who is in the sarcophagus, and that is to say, the son of the sun, Sathemran Ptah, whose word is Mat. Okay, Qabin. Where's the Qabin? I'm seeing some mispronunciations here. The text could be rendered better. The speech of Nut. Nut, the great one of some, saith, Nut, the great one of Sem, saith, O Yasir, king o'er the two lands, Mat Ra, whose word is Mat, who loveth me, I give unto thee purity on the earth, and splendor in the heavens, and I give unto thee thy head forever. This, the speech of Nut. The second speech of Nut. Who is over the Hennet boat? This, O my son Yasir, King Manmatra, whose word is Mat, his father Shu loveth him, and his mother Nut loveth him. Yasir, son of Ra, Ptah, whose word is Mat. Speech of Hape. I am Hape. I have come that I might be among those who protect thee. I bind together for thee thy head, down for thee thine enemies beneath thee, and I give thy head, O Yasir, king of Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat. It's like truth. Son of Ra, Ptah, whose word is Mat. Speech of Yinpu, Anubis, the governor of the divine house. I am Yinpu, the governor of the divine house, O Yasir, Osiris, king, lord of the two lands, Dart and Qasmet, the black land and the red land, or Ta-we. Remember the Quran, the Ta-we. Oh, I am, you are in the holy valley of Ta-we. He was still in. Son of the sun, from his body, Lord of the crowns, Them and Ptah, whose word is Mat, and Shanu beings go around about thee, and thy members remain uninjured. O yes, your king of Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat forever. The speech of Qabha Santh. Yeah, I'm definitely not seeing. I'm not seeing Sunnaf. Oh, Shu? I'm thy son, I have come that I might be among those who protect thee. I gather together for thee thy bones, and I piece together for thee thy limbs. I bring together thee thy heart, and I set it upon that seat in thy body. I make to flourish for thee thy house after thee, who livest forever, to be said, Ra liveth, the tortoise dieth. Let enter the bones of Yasir, King Manmatra, whose word is Mat, the son of the sun, Sthemran Ptah, whose word is Mat. Let him enter into the foundations, pure as the dead body which is in the earth. And the words from a speech of the canoptic jar, the At Yafu Kai U Sun Kuksfut To Ka Kur Kur. And pure are the bones of Yasir, King Manmatra, whose word is Mat, like Ra. On the bottom of the sarcophagus is a large, full-length figure of the demoness Nut, who is depicted in the form of a woman, with her arms ready to embrace the body of the king. Her face and lower parts of the body, below the waist, are in profile, but she has a front chest, front shoulders, and a front eye. Her feet are represented as if each was a right foot, and each only shows the great toe. One breast is only shown. The hair of the demoness is long and falls over her back and shoulders, and is held in a position over the forehead by a bandlet. She wears a deep collar or necklace, and her close-fitting featherwork tunic, which extends from her breast to her ankles. The latter is supported by the two shoulder straps, each of which is fastened by a buckle on the shoulder. She has anklets on her legs, and bracelets on her wrist, and armlets on her arms. The inscriptions, which are cut above the head and at both sides and under the feet of the demoness, contain addresses to the king by the great entities of the sky, and extracts from the Book of the Dead. And they read, but look at this. Did I show you this time? This is what they're talking about. Part concealed, yet so revealed, right? The inscription on the sarcophagus is the one. The words of Yasir, the king, the lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of Ra, Sathemrantha, whose word is Mat, who saith, O thou demoness Nut, support thou me, for I am thy son. Destroy thou my defects of immobility, together with those who produce them. The demoness Nut, who dwelt in the Het Hanu, saith, This son Yasir, the king, the lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of Ra, proceeding from his body, who loveth him, the lord of the crowns, Yasir Sthemrantha. Basically the king is trying to declare himself a god, right? Oh, it's sob. Sob say. Yeah, saw say instead of saw say. You know, saith this my son Manmat Ra Manmat Ra, who loveth me. I have given unto him purity upon the earth and glory in the heaven. Him the Yasir King, Lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of Ra, the lover of Nut, that is to say, Sthemrnptah, whose word is Mat, before the lords of the Tuat. Words which are to be said. Yes, oh yes, you're king of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of Ra, proceeding from his body, that is to say, it's the Ptah, whose word is Mat, thy mother Nut putteth forth 2 hands and arms over thee. Yes, your king, Lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, son of Ra, whom he loveth, Lord of diadems, Themrnptah, whose word is Mat, thy mother Nut hath added magical powers which are thine, and thou art lifted in her arms. And thou shalt never die. Oh, does the soul really die? Lift up and driven away are the calamities which are to thee, and they shall never come to thee, and shall never draw nigh unto thee. Yes, your king, the Lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, Hurrah, hath taken up his stand behind thee, Asur, son of Ra, Lord of the Edoms, Themrnptah, whose word is Mat, for thy mother Nut hath come unto thee, she hath purified thee, she hath united herself to thee, she hath supplied thee as a god, and thou art alive and established among the gods. I don't know, no matter how much you psych yourself up, and I hear that's a side effect of taking meth, but that doesn't mean that all ancient people who came up with ideas like this were just high on drugs, right? The great demoness Nut saith, I have endowed him with a soul, I have endowed him with a spirit, and I have given him power in the body of his mother, Tefnut. I, who was never brought forth, I have come, and I have united myself to Yesur, the king, the lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of Ra, the lord of the diadems, Ptah, whose word is Mat, with life, stability, and power, he shall not die. I am Nut of the mighty heart, and I took up my being in the body of my mother, Tefnut, in my name that over my mother none hath gained mastery. I have filled every palace, every place with my beneficence, and I have led captive the whole earth. I have led captive the south and the north. I have gathered together the things which are into my arms to defy Yasir, the king, the lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra. The son of the sun proceeding from his body, the lover of Skre, the lord of the diadems, the governor whose heart is glad, the Ptah, whose word is Mat, his soul shall live forever. And Nut saith Osiris, the king of Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, Rise thou me up, I am thy son, set thou free from him whose heart is at rest, from that which maketh it to be still. Yasir, the king, the lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of the sun. It's quite the pun in English, but back then, different language, you don't really get the same thing. Maybe that's how they directed it. They wanted to. Son of the sun. Sthemrnptah saith, the coming forth by day, and of the making of a way through Yim Mahat. You know, that serpent that goes like that. Saith Yusur, the king of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of the sun, proceeding from his body, loving him, the lord of the crowns, Sthemran Ptah, whose word is Mat. Homage to you, O ye lords of Mat, who are free from iniquity, who exist and live forever, and to the double the period of everlastingness, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of the sun, from his body, loving him, the Lord of Diadems, them Ptah, whose word is Mat, you hath become Mechu. In its attributes he hath gained the mastery of his words of power, and he is laden with his splendors. O deliver ye Yusur, the king, the lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son, the lord of the Dedems, them Ptah, whose word is Mat, from the crocodile of this pool, Mat. He hath his mouth, let him speak therewith. Let there be granted unto him broad-handedness in your presence, because I know you, and I know your names, and I know this great entity, unto whose nostrils ye present offerings of Chfau. Rekem is his name. He maketh a way through the eastern horizon of heaven. Rekem depart, and I also depart. Is it Ruckum or Ruxum? He is strong, and I am strong. Oh, let me not be destroyed in the Mesqat chamber. Let not the Sbiao fiends gain mastery over me. Drive not ye me from your gates, and shut not fast your arms against the Yusur, the king, the lord of the two lands, Manmat Ra, whose word is Mat, the son of the sun, from his body, loving him, the lord of the Dedems, them Ptah, whose word is Mat, because of my bread in the city of Pa, and my ale in the city of Dup, and my arms are united in the divine house which my father hath given unto me. And remembrance to this, the Ptah, we have, you know, it's supposed to be whatever your own name is. Ruxum. Okay, where's the Ruxum? I see Rux. Rux twice. See, I see Rux twice, but I'm going to have to continue this shortly.